Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the markets in EVE Online. Now for this week I'm going to try and condense everything in two episodes. The first one is going to focus on the minerals and the plex, because I do think all of these have something in common. It's that the supply-demand analysis is not so easy in all of these products. So it's really not such a great indication of what the price is going to do. And in general, especially at the moment, the minerals have been decently stable. The reason for this is because either the supply side is a lot stronger or the demand side is a lot stronger in these types of products. So there is rarely an alternation in between them. For instance, the high-end minerals will probably be put on the market because supply needs to come from 0 and stuff like that. So the supply side will dictate the price there, whereas the low-end minerals, I think it's more the demand that dictates the price, and this rarely changes back. So we'll start out with the plex, I think. A lot of people do prefer to know what the plex is doing. And there is actually some problems with trying to analyze the plex. So here we go. Prices, if I look at that, 624 for the seller, 610 for the buyers, that has gone up significantly. So let's go for the chart. This is the 1 month chart. You can see that plex prices have just really sharply started to rise, and the chart actually needs to do a lot of catching up. Look at that. Even the 5-day moving average is still hanging around the 608 mark, coming from the 600 million mark. Now all of this is probably plex for good. You know, that's the most likely explanation why we're seeing current sell prices of 624 and buy orders of 610. Now I can see a decent amount of demand here at 610, so I would call that the current floor for plex. And the sell orders, well, they're already bidding each other up, starting 624, then just below 624, etc. There is some attempts at 625 and 626, but it's pretty unlikely that it will go that high, unless of course there is all of a sudden enough demand because of plex for good. And this actually, if I take a look here, the real problem is the volumes of plex. Look at that. On average we're seeing probably more than 2,000 plex being sold in a single day. That means that pretty much everything on this page, and every demand and every buy or every sell order and every buy order on this page can actually go through in a single day, and that is why plex is so extremely difficult to actually to try and make this analysis of supply and demand, because you rarely really see enough of either buy orders or sell orders to come even close to what is traded in a single day in JITA on plex. Of course, it's also a unique item. It can be used to extend your downtime. So there is this huge plex sink as well, and a lot of people try and buy these in small amounts in order to get some ISK, but I doubt that there's a lot of people that come out and buy 1,000 plex or 500 plex all of a sudden, which would have a real impact if they put all that on a sell order or stuff like that. That's extremely rare, and that is why it's so very difficult to predict what the price of plex is going to do, in my opinion, outside of general trends. You know, such stuff like plex for good, that's a clear indication that it's going to go up because there's going to be a lot of demand, and it's a clear sink. All of that has to be donated to CCP. So this is of course great news for plex for good or for EVE in general. You know, either way, plex is an indication of general activity in the game. Of course, plex for good is now a little bit of an exception for that, so it's either going to be an indication for activity in the game or for the generosity of the EVE player base. And the fact that plex has gone up quite significantly today, I think everyone is rushing to prepare, get some plex to donate during the live stream from CCP. But yeah, like I said, the analysis on supply demand is very hard to do in plex, just because of how large the volume is every day. but people rarely put up orders of that magnitude. So yeah, that's the plex. Let's move on to the minerals then. Let's start off here with titanium. 472 highest buy order, 476 lowest sell order. So that seems decently stable. It's a slight downward trend, but you can see the 5-day moving average moving very stably in between 475, 476. And I'll quickly have a look at supply and demand here. A billion, well, 800 million units here, and then 1.3 billion units at 4.8, and then you can see 320. Well, the real demand starts at 4.67, so I would say this could go just a touch lower, but we're really talking a difference of cents here in between. There is a decent amount of activity in both sell orders and buy orders. Here you can see two decent sell orders that are very recent, of somewhat decent size, and here you can also see a lot of buy orders that come in that are pretty recent. So there is competition on both sides. This is again an indication that this will continue to move sideways, but we can probably expect the 20-day moving average to continue to slowly go down, because the real demand, the floor here is only starting at 467, a little bit lower than what we're seeing at the moment. Let's move on to pyrite here, 1127 to 1146. I am seeing a decent sized sell order. Well, that could be just 1 hour off though. All of this is pretty recent. Again, here on the buy orders though, all of this is pretty recent as well. And so this is probably going to be a sideways movement on the chart, which it is. And then do we see, like, well, you can see some pretty big buy orders here at lower prices, like here 100 million units, 104 million units, but you can probably see something similar, yeah, here 88,000 units at 1162, 152,000 units at 1166. You know, all of this is generally decently in balance, and unless you all of a sudden find something that is completely screwing up the market, like no more buy orders for some reason or no more sell orders, this is going to be a pretty stable market, which it has always been, except again for general trends, just like the plex. So let's have a look here at Mexalon, 43.68, 44.83. Again, a very small margin of around 1.2 ISK. I see a lot of pretty recent buy orders of decent size at 43.67. You can also see very recent sell orders though coming in at 44.84. So I'm once again expecting a sideways movement on the chart for Mexalon, which it is here again as well. So yeah, this all looks again pretty balanced in the market, and more of a sideways movement than anything else. Moving on to Isogen, which is also still doable from HiSec. Again, very low difference between buy orders 127.23 and sell orders 128.65. That's percent-wise even a lower margin than what Mexalon is. The recent sell orders are here. The recent buy orders not so much, so that's a little bit less. Let's have a quick look at the amounts in it. But yeah, but here 4.5 million at 127.23. And here 4.8 million at 128.69. So again, sideways movement, which is indeed correct. And do I have to go? Yeah, I have to go back down a little bit to the 123 mark before I find some larger buy orders. And there seems to be a little bit less activity on the buy order side for Isogen. So look, it's maybe a little bit of a lookout, because that's unusual. Feels a little bit less balanced. And if all of those buy orders do get filled up, we might see the price of Isogen go down a little bit if no new buy orders come. So no new demand comes to the market soon, because this doesn't look as fresh as what's happening here in the sell order. So this could indicate that Isogen might be going down a little bit. Next up, Noxium, which is a bit more rare, but still you can get some supply from Noxium from HiSec, so from safe side. So here again 693, 710, which is a very small margin. Recent buy orders Well, most of them are actually a day old. Recent sell orders, yeah, these are actually pretty recent sell orders. So here we might see a slowly downward trend because I'm seeing somewhat larger. Well, it's just one sell order and it's these two buy orders. So still bounce. I expect sideways, and it's actually an upward trend, which is a little bit rare, a little bit different from what I expected. So Noxium touching 705. 710 to 693, but yeah, so it's actually gone up, which is a little bit surprising. I would expect this to start moving sideways right now because there's a little bit more supply than demand in the freshness side of stuff, of the demand for Noxium. And it feels decently balanced if I look at these amounts. And if you look not at just the 5-day moving average and 20-day moving average, but at the price settings, here these two just below 710, they are actually sideways, and I'm actually doing this before downtime, so this could be close to the end of the day. This could be a pretty close to correct data point, which would indicate that at this point below 705, 710, something like that, Noxium might start to move sideways. I'm actually interested in the 1-year chart on this one, just to have a quick look at of the general trend. Yeah, it does look like a little bit of a recovery for Noxium though, after its really sharp decline after all the C. So I go back to the 1-month chart. Yeah, my expectation here is that it would start to move sideways. What else have we got? Zydrine then, 714, 728, decently recent buy orders and recent sell orders as well. Is this moving sideways? Yes, it is. So once again, decently balanced supply and demand market and a sideways movement. Next up, Megasite 1600, 1699. I don't think that's too wide a margin either. 89, 89, 89. There's a couple of 3-day orders right here. So this is pretty recent. 89, 89, 20 hours, 29 days. Here again, that's a 30-day order. Yeah, I think this will move pretty much sideways again. Yeah, it's known a bit of a rise towards the November 24th, but now since December it's definitely moving a lot more sideways for Megasite here as well. So that's obviously the general trend, is a sideways movement. Now one thing that was asked is for me to add morphite, because it's also considered a mineral and used a lot in Tech 2 production, I believe it was. So 7,305 to 7,400, that's once again not a lot of margin at all. This also comes from mining. I'm seeing larger sell orders than buy orders though. You have to go quite a bit lower to 7,000, although, well, no, to close to 7,000. 7,200 is some attempts, but I'm seeing a lot smaller buy orders than sell orders. So this is actually a sideways moving market, but I would be careful for morphite, because you can see here 7,400. There's a lot of supply coming online here, which is right at this point, and the demand just isn't really there anymore. There is some orders at 7,300, but they're pretty small in quantity. You have to go back to 7,250 before you see some larger ones, in 7,200, and after that 7,000. So if these buy orders get filled in, this might actually start to decline, in my opinion. The amount here, about 1.5 million being sold every day. So on the supply side is actually okay. Some supply will come online as well during the day, but on the demand side, all of this could actually be filled up if people are willing to sell morphite right away. Which might not happen that much. Morphite is pretty rare, so definitely feel that the sell orders do generally dictate the price of morphite. People have to just come to the market and buy it from the sell orders. That could be a possibility as well. So it's either going to be that or a chance for this to go down. So either continued stable market, because there's plenty of supply at 7,400, or possibly a little bit of a lower price if all of these buy orders do get filled up. Someone decides to dump their morphite on buy orders. That could just happen. That's one of the risks, of course, of such a market. But yeah, that's it for this first part of Eve Talk. I've actually been able to do this pretty quickly. Plex are up quite a lot because of Plex for good, obviously. Most of the minerals are pretty much moving sideways. A few of them have higher supply than demand at the moment, but it could just be the nature of the beast. Some of these high-end minerals are just produced in nullsec, and so people generally put those up as sell orders, and buy orders rarely get filled up for those. So most of these numbers, 1.5 million, will probably come from the sell orders, people just buying their morphite because they need it. And that does look like pretty much a sideways movement in minerals is the general trend of the last week. The only one that's a little bit of an exception is Noxium, but if I look at supply and demand here, this should start to move sideways now as well, because this feels pretty much balanced with a pretty low margin between buy orders and sell orders. Anyways, that's it for part 1 of ETH Talk. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.